Hi, Helen Beacham here today in my studio. I'm going to talk to you today about how I gel my varnished watercolor paper to a board of some kind. If I'm painting on standard size paper like this 9 by 12, then I buy a standard size 9 by 12 cradled birchwood panel like this to gel it to. And when I'm done with it, I actually apply the hanger on the back like this, so it can hang without a frame. And I'll talk to you later about how I finish the sides. If I paint on something that's not standard, this one is not a standard size, then I use gator board. This is 1/2-inch gator board. It's very stiff, very sturdy. Don't use foam core, it'll warp over time with humidity and so on. If I gel it to this kind of backing, then I must put a frame on it because you don't want that to show. Whereas when it's on the cradled board, you don't need to. You can finish the edge and it'll be like a contemporary thing. All right, other tools I use are my spray bottle. This is Liquitex Gloss Super Heavy Gel, a cup of water, a palette knife, and something like a 2-inch brush. Also my brayer. And then I've got some paper towels that I go ahead and I cut up into smaller pieces for use throughout the process. All right, let's talk briefly about how I finish the edge. If I'm on a cradle board like this, I very often use this to finish it. You could use any acrylic paint, but I kind of like this. It's golden decorative finishes, iridescent bronze glaze. It also says custom finishing colors. I'm sure there's other shades of gold and bronze and so on that you could use instead. There's probably some staining browns to make it look more like wood if that's your preference. But that comes on at the very end, and it's not something I'm going to show you today. Basically, you just take a brush and very carefully along the edge you apply it, making sure you don't go on to your painting itself. And I put a couple of coats. All right. Let me go ahead and I'll show you. I have by now sanded my board and I've wiped it off with a wet cloth. I would do that whether I was gelling it to a board or to my foam core. Not my foam core, my gator board. So let's uncover this. I use my palette knife to apply it. I go all the way to the edge. I'm working kind of quickly, yet I take my time. I make sure I cover the whole board. You don't want to have a void. And you're trying not to have big lumps either. See how smooth and buttery that gel is. If it's any thicker or harder than that, yours has gone old, so I wouldn't use it. Now, when I've got that much on there, I look quickly to see if there's some raised areas that I could pull off. So I use my knife to even it out as best I can. See how it's coming up? You just put that back in there and save it for another time. Don't be chintzy with it. It definitely needs to have that grip there. This gel is actually something I've used before to create collages, putting in some heavy metal objects. It holds it really well, so I thought, well, that ought to work for this pretty good. Okay, now, because I want to even it out even more, by the way, I'm trying not to get it over the edge. If I see any over the edge, I take my knife like this and scoop it off. All right, I'm done with my palette knife for a little bit, so I'm going to stick it in water so it doesn't harden up. I take my 2-inch brush, get a little bit of water on there, get rid of some of it, and then go over here and do this. To me, that's like laying grout. You want a little air in between, but you don't want lumps. Wipe it off, stick it in the water so it doesn't harden on the brush. Cover this up, I just use press and seal as an added barrier. All right, really this spray bottle is only used to either clean my fingers or to spray on a towel like this so I can clean my fingers, in case you're wondering. All right, you want to make sure your hands are nice and dry when you pick up your painting. Put it on here. Again, just like you're laying tile, I kind of move it around like this a little bit, you see? And then with clean fingers, I touch the corners to make sure it's not sitting crooked on one side. Then I get my brayer. Starting in the middle, I gently start pushing out. With each push, I check to make sure that there's no gel on my brayer. If there is, I must wipe it off. Into the corners. That's when it really likes to ooze out, when you get to those corners for some reason. There, it's oozed out a little bit there. But it's not, oops, it is on the brayer. If you leave it on there, you'll deposit it on your painting, and you don't want that. All right, let me check it just to see how much oozed and whether it's still squared up. I can take a moist paper towel, run it against the edge, making sure I don't push it up into the painting. You kind of get used to just kind of doing it on an angle. Then do it some more. So whereas before I went from the middle out, now I'm just going across. All right, now that I feel like it's on there, what I do is I take, it's called newsprint. It's called newsprint, but it's not. It's this kind of paper that absorbs really well. See all these wrinkles? That's where I have turned over other paintings in the past. What happens is the moisture from the gel soaks through the paper to a degree. You'll feel moist in about an hour, but you don't want to pick it up. I'm just saying what you would see if you picked it up. What I do is I lay it on this paper, probably 3 layers thick. Then I take some hardcover art books, but you could use whatever, 3 of them, and I lay it down like this, and then I wait. And I wait 24 hours. Then when the 24 hours are up, I pick it up, turn it over, lay it flat, let it dry 24 hours with it upright, because that water will evaporate through there. Then when when those 24 hours are over, I get out my finishing color and my brush, and I just paint over the edges, put my wire on, and I'm ready for someone to fall in love with it. I hope that helps you out a bit. If you have any questions at all, I'm here. You can email. My email is beachamfineart@gmail.com, and Beacham is BEACHAM. I appreciate you stopping by my studio. Come back again some other time.